On the agenda is audience of citizens. Folks here.
Come on up, White Oak Drive, we'll start with, if you want to come up, and I'd say maybe kind of over here-ish, you can speak to everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So here's,
Or if you're so inclined, you can really sit at the table, it's kind of.
No, that's fine. I don't mind sitting.
We're pretty informal.
here's a little bit of literature for you guys. Just a couple visuals, conceptual maps of, ideally what we're thinking for this development. So I'm going to be talking about 555 Weathersfield Road and 567 Weathersfield Road. 555 Weathersfield Road is an existing 20,000 square foot building. Oh, you know what? Perfect. I have just enough. There you go. Don't worry. Free of charge. All right, Chris, you want me to kind of move to the side?
Around my friend.
So a little bit about the two buildings. So today I'll talk to you guys about the two buildings the building and the lot. I'm here to represent Ryan Mayo Construction. We're a commercial masonry firm and a general contractor based out of Rocky Hill. We've been in business since 1973, and we also have a minority WBE based company out of Rocky Hill. So we do, we have anywhere between 60 to 80 employees at a time, depending on the season. And we do a wide variety of services, anywhere from, 15-story elevator shafts at our apartment building in Stamford, all the way to, a small bathroom renovation. So that's, just a little bit about the business. We're a different company, but very flexible in that aspect. So as for the building, yeah.
Are you Michael?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so now I know we are.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
I didn't know.
Okay. So you see on the page there, that's a conceptual map of the existing building, 555. So with that, we're gonna put Ronnie DeMeo Construction on ideally the second floor. So it's about 4,500 square feet of office space. There's gonna be anywhere between 10 and 13 permanent office personnel at a time here. The rest of our employees are like foremen, masons, laborers. They're on the job every day out in Stanford, or wherever the jobs might be. So with that, that leaves us about 13,000 square feet of office space. So the Ronnie DeMeo or warehouse space, Ronnie DeMeo and Architectural Stone plan to take about half of the existing warehouse space, indoor storage, not only for our material, but the company I'm going to speak to later on, which is going to be a wholesale company that we're actually planning to open up to fill that WBE void for state funded projects. So with that, the wholesale company, we're pending providing masonry supplies and other contractor supplies to contractors on publicly funded jobs. Again, that's something to fill the WBE void that is required on most state funded jobs. As you'll see marked in blue, that's a pending tenant that we're in talks with right now. So you'll see on the map, I indicated that there would be 2 overhead door openings that we would cut into the building. We'd be able to subdivide that into his own space. He'll have his own bathrooms and such. That might bring another 10 or 15 jobs to the town of Berlin, given how many employees that he indicated that he currently has. So with that, we have the construction company. We do have equipment and machines. Most of that stuff is, most if not all that stuff is going to be on the jobs. Because again, if we have commercial equipment that's not on the jobs, it's not making money. So it's something that if at a time we would have a forklift or scaffold at our job or at the shop, it's there for no more than a day or two, whether it's maintenance or just in between jobs, place to park it. So I know that outdoor storage is something that we want to be able to focus on and accommodate for the residents, specifically the neighbors across the street. That what we have shown on the plan is an enclosed fenced in area that we have 6-foot high fence currently with slats. If we need to extend that height to 8 feet in order to enclose some of the equipment that we have, we'd be happy to do that. But the big thing is for us, if we have equipment at our shop, it's not an incentive to keep it there, 'cause it's not out making money. So that pretty much.
What zone is this now?
So
Zone
it should be
industrial.
PI. Yeah,
Thank you.
So again, that's kind of in a nutshell what we plan to do with the existing building on Weathersfield Road. We're pending a closing this week, so hopefully we're gonna, see that come to fruition, and then we'll make a little bit of improvements to the outside of the building as well. So yeah, with that, I'm open to questions on this before I move on to 567.
This is, House's building,
Correct.
and you're under contract and close this week.
Not with Peter Knaus, from the guy who he sold it to.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's doing a flip.
oh, so that's-
But the 567, the lot next door, we were in contract, or we closed on that probably about 4 months ago. That was with Peter Knaus too, so. Is there any questions about the building at all?
About the existing building?
The existing building, yeah.
Chris, did you go over as far as the zone and everything?
we have not gone over it. I mean, in the PI zone, it does allow contractors by special permit, wholesale distribution by site plan. So
Basically, what they're looking
yeah, basically with the, well, yeah, it is allowed at present, yeah, so in the existing building, it would be one application for essentially the entire building. Each of the two uses, again, they're both allowed, and the nice thing too is there's plenty of parking in the whole thing, from that standpoint, it's a good fit for the existing building.
There's a water situation, some stream or something.
It's 560 goes across 567, it's the Metavasset easement.
This is really the corners here.
Yeah, so there's a Matavasset district right away. That's through 567, so that's on the next
That's
page.
his next.
Yep.
Okay. The existing one. Yeah, zones work.
Yeah, so again, we're expecting to close on that this week, pending moving in with the office fit out and stuff, might be a couple months, but again, I'll speak with Chris on that and, let everyone know, when we're gonna be able to move in. So next topic would be 567 Weathersfield Road. That is I believe it's 2.3 acre lot on the corner of White Oak Drive and Weathersfield Road. So with this building or with this lot, we kind of had the idea of developing contractor space that, would fill the need for small pickup truck contractors. Because a lot of times that, we're in the commercial construction business. Some of the subcontractors we use, they need a lot of space for, extra tools that they have, maybe leftover material from a job, things like that. So what we plan to do with this lot is build a roughly 20,000 square foot office building, give or take. It would be, 80 foot long by 200 foot wide, approximately 14 foot clear ceilings. And we would subdivide this building into specific contractor units. So in other words, what you see with the WeWork model, you have a gross lease on an office space, and then you have tenants that lease underneath that. This is a very similar model to that. So we would have units for contractors anywhere between 150 or 1,500 square feet. It would be a gross lease. We provide pallet racks. We provide pallet jacks as well. We would have a forklift on site for whatever deliveries contractors would have. They could store it in their unit as needed. In addition to that, there would be common office area space. So what this would do essentially is domicile approximately 20 to 30 businesses in the town of Berlin. So with that, I could be a tenant at 567 Weathersfield Road, Unit 2A, what have you, and then I'd have my office space there in the common office area with bathrooms. So it's something that it's an idea to really become a business hub for some of these smaller contractors that don't necessarily need 1,000 square foot plus in some of the warehouse spaces. that are available right now. Certainly, there's a need for this in the market. They can't operate out of a self-storage unit because it's just against what the development is going to allow. So this is something that is kind of a unique model. You know, with that, you have the sewer right away, the Mattabesset district that goes right through where it's indicated in blue for the driveway. Again, they're okay with vehicles, no equipment, no outdoor storage. You know, that's something that we're gonna certainly keep in mind with our future tenants. And yeah, with that, the construction of the building would ideally be split face block. That's something that we would have to, you know, certainly run through planning and zoning. But ideally, it would be that type of construction. That's something that we're familiar with and we've done self-performed ourselves. You'll see from the image that I provided, that's a building that we built 25 years ago. As you can see, it's a little bit dirty, but still in good shape. No decaying mortar or block, what have you. So it's something that, you know, would be appeasing from the street and to the residents on, you know, Weathersfield Road, but also, you know, a nice addition to the community. So.
Definitely don't have one.
So on this lot, Mike, is there gonna be any coverage of on the sides? I see some bush over here.
Yeah, so I indicated on the survey plan that we have whatever existing shrubbery is there to remain. You know, it's important that we hide as much of the building from the residents as we could. What's there now, I think would be okay. It's probably 20 or 25-foot oak trees, what have you. If we needed to plant some shrubbery or, you know, arborvitae, we'd be happy to do so. And, you know, pending planning and zoning, put a sign out front to, you know, indicate where the businesses are, as well as the wraparound driveway that connects Weathersfield Road to White Oak Drive. You know, it's something that we think is essential to the flow of traffic, especially with larger commercial vehicles, tractor trailers that need to come in and out. We'll have that at both buildings, so there wouldn't be any unnecessary traffic, you know, intrusions from trucks backing in and out of White Oak Drive or Weathersfield Road.
So access here, is it in Weathersfield, out White Oak? I'm just trying to get a perspective of kind of getting to the property.
Yeah, I guess it would ideally be on White Oak and then turn coming up White Oak from the Berlin Turnpike and turning right into the building and then continuing right out Weathersfield Road and then taking a left to get back to the, you know, the main drag.
So probably would need either a curb cut to be created or one already there. Okay. My other question is parking. Where is parking for this building?
So parking is going to be where it's indicated in blue. We'll be able to fit spots along the back of the road, as you can see, facing the existing building, as well as on the side there, next to where you see the anchor tenants unit. We have, you know, available parking spots there. I don't have an exact estimate of what the potential parking number of spots would be, but that's something that, you know, we can work out with planning and zoning.
I would guess, again, yes. They'll take a look at the total square footage, divide it by what the warehouse parking rate is, and that'll give you the amount, because I think they're gonna consider this basically warehouse, is what it sounds like.
Right.
For the
Yeah.
use. I don't know if we have, it's kind of animal with the zoning book. I like the idea. We need to kind of figure out how to quantify it for the fact that I don't want it to be seen as self-storage. It's not self-storage.
Right.
Because self-storage is not something that I think we want to open up in the PI zone only because we still have PI zone land to develop. So that, and maybe that's a conversation with the planner, but I think that conceptually it makes sense. I did a quick calculation. I figured we're somewhere between 25 and 40 contractors of all shapes and sizes in Berlin that their address is listed as their home address.
Right.
So I know for certain there's a place and a need for this.
Didn't we do this on, we did something like this on Dunning that never came to fruition? And what we were just talking about.
Yeah, next to Gillis.
Oh, so that did. come to fruition.
It did get built. Those are a little bit larger. Those are 1,500 square feet and up. So
No, back. with the contractors?
Yeah, they're building from the road, they're gonna build 4 buildings total, going all the way in the back.
Okay.
So it's gonna kind of look like an L. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's considered contractor space, I'm not sure, but that's probably a better question for planner at this point.
Like you mentioned, WeWork.
Yep.
Why don't you tell the commission what that concept is, because that's sort of how we're gonna have to pitch this to P and Z and to planners, so.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, this idea is really a first of its kind. It's something that, you know, we've had incubated for a long time. So the WeWork model is basically WeWork is gonna sign a master lease with a building, an office building. Let's say they'll take, 5 floors, roughly 20,000 square feet. So with that, they'll have the rights to those 5 floors, and then they will acquire quote unquote micro tenants in order to fill their needs. So they'll charge, maybe $1.25 on what they're paying in a master lease. So with the WeWork model, that's a come and go as you please. It's sort of a shared workspace. Kind of like if you went into a doctor's office and then you got, in the medical office building, you have the dermatologist, you got the dentist, you got the primary care physician. They all have their individual offices that are approximately, 500, 600 square feet. That exact model is very similar to what we're going to do here, but instead of having an individual tenant report to the landlord, it's going to be, a company that is going to be the master leasee of the, the building, and then the tenants they're going to basically be the management company of the building, and then the tenants are going to therefore work with the management company that is going to provide, all of the necessities and amenities for these contractors to really run their business out of. So
So the contractor's gonna be able to come in, rent a space. If they need office space, they can use the community office space.
yeah, exactly. I mean, everything is going to be pretty much based on, anything's going to be provided. So in other words, it'll be a gross lease. Utilities will be included. Taxes, maintenance, Wi-Fi, things like that. So it's really a quick solution and easy for contractors to, they don't have to worry about nothing. They just got to pay the, $500 a month for their small unit to, keep their stuff in, and then they can go into the common office area to be able to pump out an estimate or meet with clients and things like that. So that's kind of the justice of, the idea.
Shared bathrooms.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have a men's and women's room. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Each unit's not gonna have their own restroom.
no. So yeah, you'll see on the plan where I indicated in green, that would be where the bathrooms are. This is a very, conceptual plan. I meet with an architect to see, what's a typical unit size, how many bathrooms we need based on, what this need would fill, things like that. So, but yeah, it would basically be, a common office area for small contractors.
Do you see the units all being supplied with power?
Yeah, so we'll, provide, I think it will set up as, we'll have partitions. I think it will be a clear span ceiling, maybe 14-foot clear, what have you. And then, yeah, we'll, provide utilities and power to each unit as needed.
So each unit will have its own meter too?
No, it'll be a gross lease, so it's gonna be metered all together. So in other words, if you wanted to rent one of the units, yeah, you would just pay, the fair share. That's something that in the rents, we're gonna calculate, what approximate usage would be, and things like that. So in order to figure what we would charge. That's the way, in my eyes, that we could maximize this per square foot dollar value. And it's something that, is a need that quite frankly, a lot of, like Chris mentioned, 20 to 40 contractors are domiciled out of their home, run their business out of their garage per se. And this is something that, they can open up the garage space for an extra $500, $600 a month. And in addition to that, have a forklift to unload equipment or material, what have you, and an office space. So
Will entrance for each unit be gained from the interior, or there'll be outside doors?
yeah, good question. So you'll see on the plan where I have in yellow, I know it's kind of hard to see. I have a file if you want to pull it up on here, Chris, but as you can see in yellow, that is approximately 9 foot wide overhead doors. So it'd be 9 foot by 12 foot. So that can be something where if the forklift is driving around in the building, come out, you know, take the delivery, bring it to the contractor's unit. Or depending on what is allowed with planning and zoning. I don't know if I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but back in the truck into the building, unload quickly, pulling it out. Again, that's something that, you know, we'll have to work out logistically speaking, and, you know, if it's permissible, obviously there's a lot of, you know,
So the contractors will have to go inside the building to get to their unit.
of course.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that like,
Individual doors per unit on the outside.
no, but there would be, for example, you'd see on the end here, one of the units, so as an example, this would be approximately a 1,500 square foot unit with its own overhead door. Those are one of the units that we would charge a little bit more for the extra space, private entrance, but they would still have access to the common amenities and bathrooms and such.
It's a cool concept.
Any questions for Mike?
Maybe do a manufacturing cabinet replacement, building it.
I mean, it's,
Exhaust fans and stuff going on. So
yeah, it would be, that's something that, you know, depending on what the need is for the tenant, we can accommodate for. I want to make this space as flexible as possible, you know, being able to take partitions, move them here. Someone is, you know, we have two 500 square foot units right next to each other. He wants to take both of them, take the partition out. We have to, you know, bring in some exhaust fans. You know, fortunately, we're a construction company. We'd be developer owners. We would have capabilities to, you know, quite easily provide whatever needs would be, you know, depending on what the building department would say, things like that. But to answer your question, we can be flexible.
So Chris, educate us on this zone. Is there already allowed in this PI zone?
Contractors are allowed in the PI zones. I think you have to figure out what this is called. Is this a multi-tenant contractor building? Is this contractor storage? I don't know. That would be a question. I mean, good thing is contractors are allowed in the zone under special permit.
But every company will have some type of storage, so you can't say you're actually storing something, you're just supplying.
Yeah, again, I mean, is that, and that's it. I think it's more of a how it's presented when we meet with the planner. If memory serves, the development on Deming, which is GI2, very similar to this zone. The entire place was approved as contractors. Ironically enough, the first tenant is a virtual golf place, but it was approved for contractors. So I mean, that could definitely be the same situation here. It just happens to be the model's different because it's 10% of the size what they're doing up to the size.
I don't see anything wrong with the whole concept.
I like it for the fact that it would create an incubator, so anybody that's here decides they want to grow, they stay in town and they find something bigger to get into. And repeat.
You know, you mentioned before, obviously there's a demand for it.
If you look at some of the recent success stories, down at right behind Pete Campanelli's building, gentleman who went from home base to part of the HVAC firm right down to Florida. Yep, extreme example because he went to 3,200 square feet, but I think it shows well that this is what the community needs. And it definitely is a market.
Question.
My guess is
have an opportunity.
No, 100%.
No, I understand, but if you see that, 60-70% city has.
Yeah, and some of the drawback as to why some of those contractors aren't leaving their home-based businesses because they would have to go through the loops and bounds of, all right, I need to sign a 3-year lease on this building for 1,500 square feet. It's gonna cost me, you know, $2,000 a month, and I gotta sign up my own utilities and pay that on my own and yada, yada, yada. So, you know, it's a elongated process for something like this. This is a turnkey solution to, you know, having these guys get in there. We're gonna cover the utilities, you know, something that, you just be easy and flexible. That's really the solution that we'll go after.
Basically, it's the size of a two-car garage.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, some units could be a one-car garage, but depends on what the need is.
They're not rolling into the spaces for that, that's the same thing. Those big expenses and how you have to do it. They say, hey, this is what's, that's pretty much my point.
Any other questions from the commissioners for Mike? Chris, have you, gentlemen sat on the plan at all yet? This one, 2567.
We have not sat down, other than to say something might happen there, we've not sat down on the concept of, the discussion we had before was more on 555. To talk about what the plan is on the existing. We need to still sit down with the planner on 557. At the time, I believe at the time, you guys were still under contract to purchase it, I think. Yeah, so they hadn't had under control at that. So
567.
567, yes.
So are you looking to see what the commission actually support something like this? Or is it too early? There's no way in, no?
I think it's great. I think there's a definitely demand for it. And it's the right type of use, because there's many different types of uses on that particular road. Manufacturing and there's, fertilizer company up there. And if they do the screening just to protect the house, a couple houses across the way, it worked just fine.
Is there any, are any of the commissioners opposed to something?
My only question is, I came late on the game here, is it gonna be outside storage or is it all strictly inside?
So it would be all indoor storage. The blue indicated on the map is the Mattabesset district right away. So they don't allow any outdoor storage, heavy machinery or equipment, things like that to be stored on the right of way, but they do allow parking. So that would be parking for, company vehicles that somebody work out with tenants, maybe no more than 2 vehicles at a time overnight. But no, there wouldn't be any outdoor storage. So.
You need their formal approval to table their site.
Yes.
They're right away.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to them?
Yeah, we kind of touched base with them to get feelers for what would be permissible. And they indicated that parking was allowed. Paved road is okay, because the right of way goes right through the parcel into the street, and it goes all the way up the street through, the end of the cul-de-sac. So having a paved surface is acceptable to the Mattabesset district.
I'm gonna have a gated entry, security.
It depends on planning.
All these
Yeah.
towns around here, people, trucks over, contract.
Exactly, yeah.
Utility boxes.
We're certainly gonna beef up the security. We'll, as for a gated entry, we don't want to seem like we're a self-storage facility. But we'll have, state-of-the-art security system, cameras everywhere, high-def cameras, alarm system, the whole thing. That's what's included in the lease. It's not something you have to worry about if you go to rent out a 1,200 square foot flex space unit. You're gonna have to probably install your own security system for the most part. That's not something you have to worry about with these units.
Chris, would you be looking for a motion?
We can do that now. We can wait until further down on the agenda. It's kind of up to you guys. If you're feeling the notion, say.
Yeah, based on what I'm hearing, Chris, I don't see why we should make a motion to vote of support, so long as they meet the requirements. So, without, yeah, something like that. So if there's a motion on it, someone's motion on the floor, along those lines, I have an opposition to it. Nice to send Mike and the company. More support.
Conceptually, I makes perfect sense, as long as it passes muster with planning and zoning. There's-
A second somewhere,
Second.
Mr. Rostrom, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Richard, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself if you would like to, vote yea or nay on this, just because you are on the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Aye.
aye, thank you very much.
There we go.
Thank you, Dick Bro.
Do we also want to do something with 555 or just one of the assumption that it's allowed, so?
Well, they don't own it
Wednesday.
yet. Well, then you could come Thursday,
All right.
or next week or whatever.
We can't change anything.
No, they're really not. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
We can't do anything based on the pending.
You guys
I
want, I'm
don't
happy to do it.
know. You know, we sort of set precedent.
That wouldn't make a difference, because someone could come in.
It's more. First one seems to be more. What's there already, second.
Yeah, they're not
Second
saying
one.
changing it.
I think the
Then
first one.
That's fine, then I wouldn't worry about it then. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch, set something up with the planner. Thank you.
Times that someone would come
I
in.
hope they run the trophies. They come back, you know, give them a little comments.
Mr. Cassidy, you have the floor, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye.
Thank you.
It's just, it's connected to.
So that's-
Second that.
We're all set.
So, good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Cassidy, a professional engineer and principal with the Herm firm of Halsey, Pearson and Cassidy. I'm here tonight with Steve McClarty of Closton Construction, who's the property owner of a vacant piece of land on the Berlin Turnpike. What we're here for tonight, this evening, is basically just to have a preliminary discussion about development potentials for this property. The property that we're referring to is a 3.6 acre parcel. It's located on the westerly side of the Berlin Turnpike. This is a copy of the zoning map. It is just north of Days Inn, Hawthorne. This parcel that's in the even purple color. And then just to the north, this parcel here would be Best Western Hotel. It is presently zoned in the BT2 zone. Mr. McClarty has owned this property since about 2008. Been actively trying to find prospective tenants or someone interested in purchasing and developing this property. Based upon the BT2 zone, as you're probably well aware, there are some limited uses that can be developed on this property, such things as hotels, restaurants, and banks. But unfortunately, to date, we've not had any of those opportunities for developing this property. The one opportunity that has come before us several times, or come before Mr. McClarty several times, is potential for a self-storage facility. So we'd like to talk to the commission about this evening is one of two things. Possibility either looking at rezoning this area. This section between here and here is zone 2. Off to the north is BT1. And then down on the south is another property that is BT1 also. BT1 seems to allow for self-storage facilities. The other possibility we looked at is, possibly considering an amendment to the zoning regulations to allow for self-storage facilities in the BT2 zone. We're not looking at doing, I would say, a traditional self-storage facility where it's just low one-story buildings, garage doors all over the place, individual driveways. The prospective tenants we have come before us are looking at doing more of a larger climate controlled type facility, such as a 2 or 3 story structure. Mr. McClarty is familiar with building these. He did one down in North Haven. It was CubeSmart that was done several years ago. The model is basically a 3-story building with an overall area of about 50,000 square feet of climate controlled self-storage. When you're looking at the building, it's not just, again, it's low 1-story metal building with a series of garage doors. We've actually done a layout on this property. Again, the property itself in total is about 3.66 acres. We'll be looking at having an individual driveway curb cut into the site, and then the main climate control building located here. Again, the total, so on this particular model, the total storage area, total floor area is about 57,000 square feet. In this particular application, they do have some of the single-story buildings, all garage doors facing away from their own turnpike that face into themselves. So you don't see any garage doors along the own turnpike. We still have plenty of frontage, so we can do some nice landscaping along the front of the site and hide it from the Berlin Turnpike. When I read your regulations, it talks about the intent of the zone. It talks about uses that are appropriate and not having impacts on the budding residents. Self-storage facilities, as you probably well, we are not high traffic generators. This again is all inside storage. We will have storage materials outside or product outside. It'll be very quiet use because I know there's a residence that abuts this just to the inside of this page. So we just wanted to get a preliminary discussion going here to see if we can get any support to be able to add such a use as self-storage to the BT2 zone. Another thing we've seen happen in different towns is to ensure we don't get just any kind of self-storage. The possibility of writing an amendment that is specific to this type of self-storage, or specifically states it needs to be climate controlled indoor, and it needs to be a certain height of the structure. I did grab some architectural diagrams of the one that was built on North Haven. This would be the 1-story, typical self-storage that I mentioned past. This is actually the multi-story building. In this particular case, it was a 3-story building with actually has like a storefront on it with glass doors and actually has some upper windows. What's that? Roof line.
Yeah, so it's between, kind of your land.
Yeah.
Accurate, yeah, it's down the road. Yeah, so this is actually a photo I was able to grab offline of that actual building. So it's not your typical, so again, your typical self-storage building is more, of our, I would say more of the presence, architecturally pleasing building. But again, we just wanted to come before this commission to get you some feedback and see if this is something they support. Again, we've tried past 14 years to find prospective tenants for this property. This is one person that has reached out to us several times. So again, we're just looking for feedback from the commission of what their thoughts are.
Had someone present at the March meeting. They were looking to do something similar in the BT2 zone. This commission thought it made sense to consider it. I believe that property owner or the respective property owner may be coming in with a text amendment for the zone. So yeah, for
the text
amendment for self-storage. I don't have a lot of details on it yet. Normally when we have something like that, we'll bring it to this commission. I don't have anything formal, but that would be something that if the use is added, taking a look and see how it either does or does not work with what you guys are looking at. Because it is almost similar. I know the garage door is a big issue, the outside store is a big issue, and it's also the BT2, so it literally be a half mile at most.
Yeah, the other BT2 zone is on the south side of Deming Road, I believe.
Yep. No, this one literally is almost across the street.
Okay, then it's the vacant piece behind Absolute Auto Authority.
I guess the question is, how many BT1 parcels are there?
No, BT2.
Oh, this is BT1.
No, it's BT2.
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 Correct. It's BT1 to the north. Put on is BT1. Down here is BT1. Once you get up to the intersection with Deming, you go further up, those are all BT1, other than the one piece that's along the south side of Deming Road is BT2.
The tree and road site is BT2. But they're coming in for some BT1. Thursday or next meeting.
And the other self-storage guy that was here last meeting,
So you
Two.
T2 also.
Yeah, you get that same piece. Yep.
We're here. So the way it goes is, popcorn, basic, so manufacturing or some plumbers, shop in the back here. You can't see the school road. Safari Golf, absolutely. We actually have some storage on the back porch on the property already. Somewhere auto is over here, and then these four pieces over here, for single family residents. Yeah, that's Western is there. So there's a limited number of parcels down this area that are B2 zone, BT2 zone. And again, I thought, my thought is it's probably better to do a text amendment, so you don't open it up to all types of uses. And then to make sure that you don't get what's I'll call the old style self-storage, maybe it needs to be a regulation above it, providing for climate control. The town of Vernon actually has a pretty decent regulation that speaks to having climate control self-storage facility.
The other thought, just change. Sorry.
Uses down here, the permitted uses are like hotels, restaurants, banks. There's already 2 hotels there. And the other interesting one is it talks about sales, but excluding sales of automobiles, which are two of them right across the street.
Right. I do, Mr. Chairman. I need a point of clarification. I was involved with the sale of Mr. McClarty's property. We're talking about 14 years ago. So is there a conflict of me asking questions?
You have any interest now? I don't see a problem.
I just want to bring it up.
You don't have any financial interests.
No,
Certainly.
the climate control, would it be something like medical records and so forth that you would draw?
Yep.
And I haven't been in this, seen this area that offered that much.
Yep.
So I find that to be attractive, that one.
Yeah. Pretty well, liked by businesses as well as people.
Yeah. Okay. And then how would you screen that? If you're gonna have like more of the open doors facing interior wise, what would it look like from the street?
So ultimately, we either probably end up in the building, so it's upwards going, everybody drive aisle from it. And that way, if you want, you'd have a I left it, you see the area in here, so it gives me ample area to get a landscape buffer in there for that portion of it. The main building, we want to keep that open, and again, that's gonna be more of a finished building architecturally set. The back portion. It all faces towards itself.
The elevation does climb after that, and goes into the condo area, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Is this building, did it take up your whole property? Or are you looking to do more? I don't know how big
This is just.
Find the language.
That they're proposing.
Yes. It looks like it's going to be in May public hearings, but so forth.
That's approved.
So I guess the question I have, Chris, percentage. last meeting, we had someone come in for self-storage in VT2 zone. Maybe a public hearing in May on that. And that, how does that impact these gentlemen? Positively, negatively, does it include this climate control type self-storage? I guess.
It listed as self-storage facilities, and then there's different pieces. If you look at some of these pieces, my guess is there's probably not, nope. So they would not have 650 feet, they have like 400 plus.
We're 3.66 acres, so.
6 acres. And I'm sure you don't have the 90 feet from other properties. 90-foot setback for structures.
Setback. Say whether it's pavement or structures.
I think the building.
It's like.
2, 5, 6. 3 and 4 would actually be issued as it's currently read. This is a proposal that they put in, yes. Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out how these gentlemen don't get beat when this gets approved. I don't know if these gentlemen go talk to these gentlemen, see if they can
So
figure something out so that it works for
Yeah.
each person.
it's a piece across the street behind us.
The 7 acres across. Oh, yeah, the red lace piece to the north of.
So I think we'd, thank you for making me aware of this. I'd have to contact the town planner. Mr. McClarty is, property owner. This regulation is very specific to a particular piece of property. But I think we'd have to put a letter in, requesting modifications to it to make it fair to all parties. I mean, the good thing is that, there's not many BT2 zone properties left. So it's not going to have this happen all over the place.
Showed our support of it. We showed our support of this. Last
So
week.
I don't think there's any.
So that would kind of lock it in for that.
For that, correct.
Right.
Yeah, so that's very specific.
That's why I was on a perfect look at it.
7 acres and also 650 feet of frontage.
What is your property?
473.
Chairman, I'm all for the development on the west side, 7 acres.
Okay,
But this is basically drawn up just for that piece.
right.
And zoning should not happen. Should take into account all zones. 7 acres, so just by using a 7 acre in writing shows it's custom made.
Yeah.
Normally you would see something here, a 2 or 3 acre minimum.
Is that 5? So it's about 5. So,
Material difference between this project. And climate control.
They didn't mention anything.
I don't think they mentioned that.
Just hate to see. Push this through. Special permits, so that.
Better if these folks, the two principals here spoke, see if there's some way with the town. to make some
Sure.
Arrangement.
Well, we know.
Yeah.
We can also make a recommendation that says that we're in favor of the use of the zone. And you should be over 50 and 3.5. Instead of 650 feet of frontage.
number 3 would be 4.
Frontage, three would be 450, and then 4 would be 3.5. Just hypothetically.
Probably a 3 acre.
I don't listen to them. Yeah.
No.
There's a no, I don't know what will happen with that.
Any other questions? I guess the thing is, we supported it Massimo across the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that specific,
Yeah, can we hold this off to later in the discussion, only because I literally have a third one to mention that I want to make part of the discussion. So I don't want to take action right this second before I get a chance to talk about.
Okay.
I mean, do you guys agree that maybe that kind of a thing is the way to go, to make the recommendation of the changes? You think that's the way to go?
Depending on what your next one.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Well, let's see.
I don't know, next one's on this postage stamp.
17 stories.
Yeah, some of the stories, that's right.
All right.
Urbana storage.
All right. What else? The audience, Chris.
We have the gentleman on Chamberlain Highway.
Hey guys, I'm Joe Arasimowitz. I work for Gaffney Bennett and Associates over in New Britain. Today joining me will be Mike Leach virtually, who is the property owner of the old Ferndale Plaza, as we all know it here in town. And then I also have Robert Schmidt here. He's an engineer and he'll go through the plans. So we're talking about the Ferndale Plaza across from the Sussmans. Many of us have known that for years. Gone is the bike store, the movie theater, the wallpaper store, and of course the dairy. It's an underutilized area of town. I know a couple of you live over in that area. My sister's over in that area. You guys have been working really hard to try to get some anchor tenants and things going on in the plaza across the street with little or no success. I want to compliment you, and he had the opportunity, because he's a local guy too, drive by Farmington Avenue, what you guys are doing around the train station. And a lot about what we're talking about takes off from that there by the train station. And we really just want to start the conversation. This is currently the site, and we'll talk about it a little bit. It would be a mixed-use development. As many of you know, it's very difficult to put these projects together. If you're going to have the retail space, you're going to have the anchor people in the area. I know with a few economic development opportunities you've had for the Sussmans Plaza, the counts were a little low. You didn't have enough bodies over in that area. They're looking for certain criteria. We want to bring something to the table, at least for discussion here tonight. You guys could tell us how it would work to where it'd be mixed use. And the housing aspect of it, we're looking at about 100 housing, where as high as 120. We've come down to 100 after conversations with the town. And we want to focus on a specific area. The real strength of this property is less than 8 miles between major healthcare institutions around the state. You have Yukon Health Center, just around 8 miles. You have Grove Hill. You have the Hospital for Central Connecticut. We all that were born there call Newburgh General Hospital. You have Mid-State right over in Meriden. And I don't know if you've heard the news, but Yale has now bought the old Meriden Mall. And they're going to be turning that into another old medical facility right across the street from where Mid-State is. I was at a press conference at Hartford Hospital about a month and a half ago. Big announcement there is the need to train, recruit, and retain medical professionals. So, and Mike will talk about it a little bit. What we want to do with this building is to provide, obviously, economic development. We have the retail sites, we have tenants, improve the area, but we also want to provide accessible housing for medical professionals around the state and the amenities that they look for with that, a gym. But really, it's all about ideas right now. As you guys know, I'm a local guy. Gaffney Bennett and Associates has a relationship with Mike. And when he came in and talked about the Chamberlain Highway, I immediately volunteered to do this initial meeting with you guys, just because I know what it's like over there and what it's like It's been like for years. It really is the key to that side of town.
Why don't we just put that in the center that we can
Yeah,
take a look at it, use that way they can, if you're gonna describe kind of what's going on, that we can.
And I have a couple of smaller copies.
Just trying to get my bearings.
So-
Yeah. Where everything is.
So the medical housing stock idea, accessible medical housing has been done in other areas of the country. It's been done in Charleston, it's been done in Ohio, it's been done in Michigan, Indiana. And it really does fit in where we're looking. We intend, if we can get something going, obviously, there's a lot of steps between now and then to actively recruit with Hartford Healthcare, Yale, Grove Hill. They're all recruiting nurses, young doctors, physician assistants, everything right down the line. Looking for somewhere to go at an affordable price, and that's what we intend to propose there. At this time, I will turn it over to Mike Leach, joining us virtually, longtime property owner. And that's the other thing, right? We're all local guys. I grew up in this town. Mike's owned the property for how many years now, Mike?
Thanks, Joe. Either my father or my grandfather bought it in the 50s. So we've had it for a while. But I thank you all and for making this time for us. I apologize that I can't be there. And speaking of healthcare, I'm fighting off a terrible cold. So I thought it'd be best that I come virtually. Yeah, like Joe said, we've been trying to reimagine this center for quite some time. And to try to come up with a solution that would, not only create something that was more economically viable, but really bring to life that node, that coming together of the two roads and that whole part of town. And we keep coming back to this mixed use multifamily type of a development around healthcare providers. The interesting thing that Joe touched on is that the state of Connecticut has an insatiable need right now for frontline healthcare workers. Hartford Healthcare announced yesterday 1,000 new nursing jobs a year for the next 5 years. So when you think about development as an economic engine, what we currently have right now at the site is about 18,000 square feet of usable retail and office. And while they provide very valuable goods and services, they aren't generating an input when it comes to economic value. Sure, you can go there and go to the liquor store and purchase, a 6-pack of beer, but what is that liquor store generating into the community other than goods and services for sale? Now, if you think of 100 units of frontline nurses, the average nurse in the state of Connecticut makes $70,000 a year. So even if you were to put 50 nurses into that facility, that's an economic output, not an economic input, but an economic output of $3.5 million. If you were to fill the whole building up, it's close to $7 million. So when you think about it from that context, what that economic output will do is not only enhance the retail in our facility, but dramatically enhance the retail across the street and create a vibrant town center type of a situation where people would thrive. The economy there would thrive instead of having boarded up and vacant spaces. Now, we are going to target frontline healthcare workers. Like Joe said, we're going to provide an amenity-rich package for that would entail health clubs, quiet floors, the climate-controlled food drop areas. Obviously, mail and that such would all be right on site. So as many accessible and easy to sort of live and work amenities as possible. So, and then the other good thing is with the plan that we're going to show you today. And it's very much, we're very much at the beginning. And we want this process to be as collaborative as possible. And we really want to work in conjunction with the town because we think this is an incredible opportunity, you know, and we know that we have enough retail on the concept that we have now that we can more than satisfy what we have on the site with the current tenants. So we wouldn't be losing any tenants. In fact, we'd be gaining more tenants with a better utilization of the space. So with that, oh, and then the other sort of not so the major economic impact to the municipality is if we were to just do retail, the amount of property taxes that we would generate would be in and around about $40,000 a year with the current situation, where a mixed use development would be substantially over $100,000 a year. So it would really have not to mention personal property tax and such. So from an economic, purely from an economic development perspective, this type of development far outweighs straight retail or office. So with that said, I want to introduce Robert Schmidt, who's our lead engineer and project manager, and he can walk you through a little bit of our thinking. And once again, we are always open to comments and suggestions.
Thank you, Mike. I'll keep this brief. It's late. There's basketball on, so I'll be sensitive to everybody's basketball.
Doesn't start tonight.
Doesn't start till 9. I'll plug it in. So in any event, as Mike mentioned, legacy site, these properties owned for a long time. It's got a little over 5 acres, and the building is proposed. It looks like a hard line drawing, but this is what we do when we lay out buildings, just get an idea of what it would look like and what it would yield. It yields about 100,000 square feet in residential space and around 20,000 square feet in retail space, not including the pad site, but the other site that's in the bottom of the page there in orange. The coverage is pretty light, less than 20%, around 18%. Parking ratios are really favorable, not only for retail, but also for tenants. And the idea and the concept of the feeding of the building from north and south, so you could separate where maybe residents would park versus where retail would park. And what I mean by that is on the left-hand side of the street there, the one close to the back of the lot, that's where the residents would enter. That's where they would park. They could enter in the second floor because of the topography is parts of the site. And the retail ends could feed on the north and south side. So if you have anchor pieces on north and south, they could enter those spaces. And furthermore, the parking lot to the south could feed both the pad site in orange and the retail spots in purple. The light kind of orangey color in the middle would be the amenity spaces that Mike was speaking to and Joe was as well. Everything from fitness to mail to drop to storage for the tenants themselves. The mention of, the discussion of the yield rate or the 120 units down to 100 was based on some feedback that we talked already. Chris Barta talked to the planning office, and we've had some initial conversations with the planning office. And we're just trying to figure out what would work here, what would work for the town. I can answer other questions.
And just to talk about the topography a little bit, if we all know the streets up and back, if you were to stand up in their yards, it really is a very substantial drop. So that's why entering from the second level from behind is very easy. And even, you know, in some of these plans, even the back is pretty, it's probably 3 stories up to where the back property owners are.
Yeah, I spent some time on the public streets, not in people's yards, walking around, and there's that one house in the west there that has a really high deck. To get an idea what that would look like. And these images that you're looking at here are just contextual. It's ideas of what might work, trying to be sensitive to a retail amenity on the first floor and then 3 stories above. And what that would look like and what the fit out would look like, what the streetscape would look like, and how we bring the energy. How you bring the energy from across, that's pretty quiet now, and then the west side that has the vacancies tied together.
Some of this was really born out of what you all have already started to do down by the train station.
Yeah.
Somebody who's been in this town my whole life, I drive by and I get excited. It looks really cool. And keep saying to Chris, all right, when's the rest coming? Well, yeah, well, we're gonna do the rest. So
starting from the beginning, basically, everything comes down, start all over again.
right.
And you guys know the site much, much better than I do. Walked it many times. But there's a lot of space that's not used at all right now. And it's a shame to see it.
Now, how do you feel a 4-story building along the Chamberlain Highway that's already up on grade a little bit is gonna react to the situation, to the area?
I'm glad you asked that. So maybe a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, we were on one of these calls and I had live screen on the screen. We were drawing arrows and we're trying to think about what does our study look like? And what we actually did in my region, we were drawing arrows from west to east. And if I was sitting up here, I would think it's this house, what's these houses, my deck, it's this one. Then what would I be looking at? So if there's some excitement and some energy, there's thoughts that there's some traction here, one of the next things we're gonna do is these angle repose studies. What if you're sitting up at that elevation on a 4-story building, what am I actually looking at? Looking at a parapet, looking at a roof, or am I seeing right over from parapet? Probably then it goes above a roof, a little piece goes above a roof. You don't see the rooftop equipment. So would you see that, or would you look right over because it's a relatively skinny building and look onto the roof of the mobile station or the old grocery store? Those are the next round of studies that we have to engage ourselves in if there's some energy.
You mentioned multifamily. How big are these apartments or apartments?
So it's a mixed use ratio and we're not baked, we're just doing models for financials for studies. It's everything from 1 bedroom up to 3 bedrooms. The unit mix ratio is, I have it modeled out, but it's 20% this, 40% that. And we can really make it whatever market needs. And what Mike said, the recruitment piece. When we actually go and recruit people, my neighbor across the street is Hartford Healthcare nurse, and ask them, what are you thinking? What do you need? Are you a family of 2? Are you a family of 4? And that unit mix ratio has 2 pieces. What does the customer want? But also what does a project have to yield? And that works with zoning. So it's got the trifecta.
So, and I've had some initial discussions with Jeff Flax. He's also one of my clients, which is Hartford Healthcare. And he's willing to get a group of nurses, newer nurses, and we're going to sit down and do sort of focus. We're going to talk through what are the amenities you look for? What are the type of stylings you're looking for?
So it would basically be work there, live there. And it would have everything.
Working at the hospital.
Is there a medical office in here?
No medical office there.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
theoretically it could be.
Yeah, so right now,
We have
today,
2.
some of Mike's tenants are that, and those tenants could be replicated in this. And then I guess if you live there and you want to work there, you could get out and go up the elevator and come down the elevator, and go to your office.
Market rate?
So we are willing to talk to the town because we understand that the town needs percentages. We can absolutely have that discussion. For Mike specifically, he's the developer. It all really comes down to financing, what the financing looks like. Is that accurate, Michael? They were asking about affordable or percentage wise. We're open to the discussions.
Yeah, yes, and we're exploring the possibility of going down the employment or going through the employment lines of the hospital and see how we could comply within the healthcare services to affordable is not the right word anymore. It's until accessible.
It really is an interesting idea. Like I said, they started in other states and they found an incredible market for it. And it's just making it.
So would you have to be a medical?
You wouldn't have to be, but we would specifically go out there and recruit.
I think there's another thing too. It's you want these things to work. I worked through a lot of projects and helped Mike out for years. And in other areas where these types of projects take place, the study's not done. The old adage, utility will come, not necessarily. So you want to make sure that what you're going to build will be favorable for the community, but also for potential customer. And that's that focus group that Joe was speaking.
So you're gonna have to create a zone within this particular site. If you do create a new zone, where else in town will you work? You'll work on the turnpike and so forth.
So I have some initial thoughts on that. A member of my team is a professional planner. We have an 8-person planning team as well. I actually work for Colliers. And I was talking to Deb Lawler, who's our ASCP certified planner for our team. Actually lives in Connecticut as well. And she was thinking about, can we come down and talk to Chris and the planning office and strategize? We work as a team to think about, if we developed a zone in this area for this, where else would it work? Or what's the right zone for this thing to be called? Just have a collaborative conversation, bring our planner in and talk about it. Because we don't know yet.
I can understand you're attempting to pinpoint your possible tenants, but to just look at nurses or medical doesn't necessarily make sense to me. In general, it's going to attract a certain age, maybe up to 30, 35, and then someone maybe my age and up, right? I don't think if you're going to attempt to put a third bedroom in here, it's going to sell that planning and zoning. Because the first fight you're gonna hear is it doesn't pay for itself. You're going to have school-age children. This is a loser for the town.
That's exactly what we're looking for. If it should be studios 1s and 2s, studios 1s and 2s.
Usually that's what they look for. Just obviously for conversation.
And I gotta be honest, when I met with Mike, he really said, I wanna come in, I wanna be a partner, I wanna try to find and make this work. This has been an underutilized.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Most of it, you're looking at what we're talking about, what's happening on a turnpike is 1 and 2 bedrooms, or 1 bedroom and den. Okay, which we know at times the den could easily be used for bedroom, second bedroom. Okay? Third bedroom, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know.
And a lot of times the architecture doesn't lend itself to that because of windows and bedrooms.
I don't know.
Somebody come out of college, starting off, that's fine. But when they get married after 2 incomes, they start a family. And there's not gonna be any area to play or things that are right for children, so that may real internal.
Yeah, and I think we anticipate that. I mean, my son's now 30, bought a house on front, have the, he was first looking. It was hard for him to find a place for him to store for to afford. Fresh out of school, might be something that would attract them too.
Well, I think everybody goes into that. Go to our table. When I came, I wanted to move to one table. I couldn't afford it, so I moved to New Haven first.
Yeah,
It's just called coming up, paying the dues.
Yeah.
it's true. I did New Britain to Berlin, and Britain back.
That's just how it works.
I think this is gonna be something for just, let's just say, I'm not expecting this tonight, if this is something that is to be supported, it's gonna have to be looked at very carefully, because I don't know if creating a brand new zone works, or do you work with an existing zone text amendment, like what we're talking about, ET2 self-storage. The concern I would have is if you do a text amendment, this is the same zone, which is PSA. PSA is the same zone that has Ocean State Job Lot Plaza, and not concerned about Ocean State Job Lot. That was 3 years ago. The movie theater, I'm concerned. I don't know how long the movie theater is for this world, and that's a good 10, 12 acres. So that would be my only concern at this point. I know, and I don't know them nearly enough, but something to kind of take a look at is the town did add a PR1 and a PR2 zone, which I think are housing related zones. So something just kind of think about again. I don't know nothing about it, but I know that when the town was looking at, and those may be only senior housing, but I know if you're looking at zones that are specifically for multifamily, I believe PR1 and PR2 were put in place in the last handful of years. Because I know when Metro Realty came in and they got approved for 88 units on Deming, which is just down the street from Eversource. They took an existing WHD workforce housing or something similar, and they tweaked it a little bit for that project.
How many are affordable in that unit? What's going on?
30%,
30. How many units total?
88.
So what is that?
25, 24.
So I'm still short.
No, we get, no, we,
That's
we,
no longer
hold on,
10% excluded.
hold on.
I'm not changing.
Right, they got CHB financing.
Right.
If that goes through, we get credit for all 88. Yes, they're working final pieces at the moment.
So the town could easily come up with mandatory 10% of any type of housing should be workforce housing. Hopefully, like you're saying, 10% holds. Okay.
Everything
Already
they
said it's no longer a goal.
everything that they've been looking at is just 20%. If you look at the last one that was added, 20%. My guess is 20% is going to be the number underneath it. Just because, again, you have to figure that we're going to get the balance. For instance, we are going to get some new home construction, not tons of them, right? But again, 10 homes that are built, one more in the direction.
Can you do it senior?
Mike, did you hear that question?
I can speak to the architecture, the amenities, so there's a model, so Mike, the question was about senior.
Yep.
I'll just have one piece of feedback, Mike, and then I'll let you chime in. There's a model out there that's being populated, we were talking about a couple minutes ago, and in the Carolinas, and they call it 55 plus limited amenity. So what that means is it's not much different than this, it could be 55 plus, and the amenities are tweaked. If this was to be a true senior that had other features that are for people that are aging, building probably gets a little bit bigger and does a different thing, it does a different purpose of the piece, whether it's memory care, assisted living, I could go on and on, but you know what I mean. Mike, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just, I would just say, like what I alluded to in my description is if we were able to have 50 nurses or healthcare workers, I shouldn't say nurses, 15 healthcare workers come into a building of 100, right? And that would leave additional 50 units that would really be earmarked towards seniors, towards, just the general market, and that would be the idea. I mean, it's not the desire to make the whole building like homogeneous that way, because it would become challenging to lease. But I think by having, trying to cater part of it towards healthcare and then really towards the population, the general population, the market is more of the desire. If there's things that we can do to add into amenities for seniors and 55 and older, I would gladly do it, embrace it.
I have a couple questions. First of all, I'd like to commend you, gentlemen, in your strategy with respect to this project by sort of having open arms and possibly embracing some of the ideas the town might have. Quite often developers come in, this is what we're doing, and that's it. So I'll say thank you for that, because you want to, when you said this is the early stage, you want to talk to us. That's good, that's great. So when we get to the end, it's what works for everyone. So I think that's great. With respect to the orange building, I believe that's the Carlton site.
Yeah, Carlton would be like this.
Yes, it is.
That building's just,
Right, so, Mike, is he the owner of the Carlton
Yes.
site? Okay, so you don't have to acquire that. Yeah. Okay, so he owns that, and that's part of the whole parcel. Okay. So I understand that.
yeah, I think you guys had something a few months back, but Mike ended up taking over ownership from, there was a couple of folks that were thinking about doing something. Isn't that accurate, Mike?
Yeah, we bought it. It was, I mean, it's in really rough shape, and we had this, we want to turn it, we want to do the right thing here, and so we've made that investment. We bought that parcel. So now we're in total control of our destiny, and we want to repurpose this whole center.
Okay, so now we understand that. so we don't have to go assemble parcels to get there. Traffic light would probably end up happening there. You know, just to probably just to pick it out. All,
Probably not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Some of the traffic going by there.
and I just say that as we, I only say that as we chit chat here, because that's basically what we're doing. We're getting, you know, this is ground zero right now. All the units are rentals. There's not any condos.
Correct.
Okay, so I understand that. I think as I look at this, you know, and we've talked about this whole corner here. A project of this sort has the ability to reinvigorate that whole, you know, that whole section of town right there, including Sustenance piece right across the street, you know. And if you bring in 100 people that are young, and good earning potential, that like to go out and hang, this whole thing is going to turn it, it's going to turn into something phenomenal. It really would. So I think it has that ability to reinvigorate that whole thing, because we've been, it's sort of been a dead end. We all know it's been a dead end for a while. You know what I mean? That's, I don't think, and not only that area, you know, benefit for our downtown too. You know, folks want to hang around and go out to dinner, restaurants that are already open. So I'm not sure how much opposition we get from neighbors. There's a lot of housing. It tends to be, I just say that because, you know, we're going to get there. We may get there, and then what our neighbors thinking. We're talking about 3 or 4 stories, and maybe they like the piece that's surrounding, you know.
And being in town forever, I know, and I've talked to them, and we're gonna do things that we need to do to at least explain. In the end, they may not get there, but the more studies Robert can do, and Mike, and we can go and show them, okay, this is what you're gonna be looking at. This is how it's gonna look. This is what we're gonna have for a setup. We're gonna do everything we can to really work with them. And that's why we wanted to come in to you early on and say, okay, this is what we're thinking. Obviously, it always boils down to financing, not like what you guys did down the train station. There's a lot of state money that went into that and others. We're going to explore ideas, but we're not looking for anything other than, you know, as we're going through the process, we'll talk about the taxes with the town planners and the town managers, but we're not looking for anything additional from the town.
And I also think that it has the ability to increase real estate values in the area, you know, of existing. I don't think so.
As long as it doesn't affect them, right? That's what they would be concerned about.
Well, I think
What's most important to us is, you know, we're not in a rush to do this. And by that, I mean, you know, we've owned this property for a long time. We want to do it right. Okay. We want to do it once. We want to do it thoroughly. We want to do it thoughtfully. We want to all be able to say when we're done, we want to stand there in between those 2 buildings and those 2 parcels on sidewalks with streetscapes and landscaping and be proud of our achievement. That's the vision. We want to create a town center.
I think probably the main concern you're gonna have here is that your attempt is to develop this particular parcel, not affect the rest of Chamberlain Highway. Because we all know the Chamberlain Highway is known for our agricultural scenic area, right? It's already commercial, all right? And you're on your way or attempting to improve the area. I'm personally looking at this, I would right away say the 4th floor should go. 3 stories is probably more than enough. I hope the numbers still work for you. But 4th floor just starts to make it into a high rise.
And we talked about that. And so the question wasn't part of what Robert was talking about is it then that people are actually looking down on the rooftop? So in the way the grade is, but yeah, I mean, we'll take that into consideration.
It's just,
Yeah,
it's just food for thought.
yeah, no, I hear you. I appreciate it.
You know, we're still not a city.
Yeah. I'll never be a city.
No,
When I mentioned the height of the building along the Chamberlain Highway, I wasn't necessarily speaking of the houses behind it. I was actually thinking, because it's so close to the Chamberlain Highway, you're gonna be looking up like this at a four-story building that's already above grade of the highway, which I think might be a little bit too much. And I like the idea of the fact that you're looking at professional tenants coming in the medical industry. And I like the fact that you're taking an area that has a hodgepodge of architecture and dilapidated buildings and blending it into one nice type of development. And I'm just curious, how are you gonna keep that professional tenant over time going into that particular building? How is that gonna be done?
Michael, I think that's a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question. I apologize.
Me saying with the turnover and we're gonna go out and initially recruit for the professionals, how are we gonna keep it? And
Exactly. You know, in
So-
10 years.
The tenants.
About in 15 or 20 years, you're still gonna be able to maintain that
And Michael,
tenant.
I can talk about what they did in Cincinnati if you want me to.
Sure.
So they actually, what they do is they have a referral system that comes straight from the hospital. When the hospital gets a new employee in and they're recruiting, they work hand in hand. So they actually hand them the literature as a company can search and they can find the neighborhoods they want to go to. And what the company has done, which we won't have to do because it's our development, is they give you the particulars. They talk about the security, they give you the rent layouts, and they give you the apartment layouts when they're initially being recruited or retained. So I think that's one way we'll do it. But then long-term, Michael, I guess we'd continue that. If you have
I
any
mean,
other thoughts.
that thoughtful property management is the answer to that question. It's while that center has struggled, the tenants in there have all been there for a long time. And that's all a reflection of our company's property management policies. And like, we don't consider ourselves a landlord, we consider ourselves a partner. And we engage our tenants in a business friendly relationship. And so we would bring that same thinking to the residential components of this, where we would make it easy, just like Joe said, for when a nurse practitioner or healthcare worker is moving out, to her friend or coworker or whomever that's coming in, make it simple and easy and without a hassle for it. It's going to sound corny, but a drop of kindness goes a long way in our business.
I'll just say, because I gotta go. As an initial concept, I like it. I think it's a good idea, definitely clean things up. I think it may help spur across the street. How about that? That would be nice. And if those are the renderings, they're nice, obviously. I do kind of agree on the 3-story versus the 4. Other than that, I think the concept is great to start with. We're all starting.
Everything's okay about it.
Any other questions? These folks tonight?
Well, again, thank you all for your time. Obviously, Chris will talk to you. You want us to come back for action.
When you come back at a certain time, when there's some things and so forth. I agree with Bob. Like to get kind of down. It's just that. Want to see your final. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Feel better.
You're welcome. Thank you.
hour and a half later, 3 minutes.
Hey, we're moving right along.
All right, but we have March minutes in our package.
I'll make a motion that we approve March. Minutes.
We have a second somewhere.
Second.
Mr. Boster seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed. Abstain, motion passes.
Richard?
He can't vote, he wasn't here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yes.
He was absent.
Hi.
Okay, we're on item 4, tax abatement. Chris?
Sure, so 239 Christian Lane, Kevkai, this is the building going across from Forest Machine. They're building the 10,000 square foot building, we discussed it last meeting. We were not sure whether it was a 3 or a 5, they are eligible for 3. The land cost is not figured into the value of the improvement, so they're essentially spending $750,000. They'd be eligible for a 3-year tax abatement, so looking for support for 3-year tax abatement for Kevkai properties.
Is that 50, 40, 30?
50, 40, 30. So what we do, Kevin, absolutely,
3 year,
per year.
50, 40, 30, so it's allowed. They want it. We have an application. So we're looking for,
Thanks, good.
Scopel makes a motion to approve 50, 40, 30, 3-year tax abatement for Kevkai.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Richard?
Hi,
Thank you.
Sorry, Richard, I keep forgetting you're there.
not a
Next
problem.
Is Alex.
Second, John.
Yes, he is the owner of the Cornerstone Restaurant. So retail and restaurants are eligible, so he would be eligible for a 3-year tax abatement. So again, same thing, 50, 40, 30 over 3 years. If you are so inclined.
That was before. Any other restaurants? People come back to.
Well, they, if they do improvements at this point, they can get the tax abatement on the improvements. But if they hadn't applied before, they can't get the retroactive. At this point.
Is this for the whole building or just the improvements?
This is for the whole property, for the improvements that were made.
This is the done.
Yes, it is.
I don't think this is all. Is it
But restaurants and retail are eligible.
for tax abatement? For existing building?
30 seconds, let me go.
I'd love to give it to them, but I don't think they qualify. It'd be great if we give it to them. I don't think so.
I don't know, so I'm just asking for time frame for upgrades. Why? Special.
We're talking about the old dining, right?
Yeah. So, Steve,
Yeah,
or is it just the fact that it's an existing building?
yeah.
He actually had applied some time ago. And this was actually misplaced by yours truly.
So you can do it on an existing building, but because it's in business.
You can do it at any new building as long as you're making an investment, but you can only get the tax abatement on increases to the value. So if your building's worth $100,000 and it's worth $150,000, you get the additional tax break on the additional $50,000 in value. But it doesn't touch the original 100.
Okay.
So it's only on the improvements.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, right here, four restaurants.
Put a landing up.
Yeah, within the language number 5 says for restaurants in here, so.
I don't know, but they would know their numbers.
The town has to reassess it, I would imagine.
Yeah, but they actually don't deal with the numbers. they just know-
No, we just say what the thing is, so yes, they would be eligible for it.
Okay,
It's a restaurant.
and he had applied, so. I guess we look for a motion.
I have a question. So Chris, does the town go in there and reassess, is that how, of the old assessment versus the new one with the improvements? Is that how the tax?
At some point they would, yeah. Yeah, at some point they go through, usually every October 1st, they go through and they take a look and see, okay, well, nothing changed, so we don't change it. If there is changes like this one, they go in October 1st, they would modify the bill for the next July 1 tax bill. So
Okay. Check that out, looks like it's okay. It's a 3-year, 50/40/30 abatement. So we can look for a motion.
Make the motion that we give the Cornerstone Restaurant, Alan, I can't pronounce his last name, the 5430 tax abatement.
Okay. Second somewhere. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Say, motion passes. Okay,
last one is Kevin M. Bundy Lifetime Trust. This is the new building they're building on the old driving range. 10,000 square feet. They're in the process of constructing it. Same thing, 50/40/30.
50/40/30.
I'll second it.
And the amount that they're spending doesn't allow them to get to a larger abatement. Okay,
You need to be $1 million to hit the 5 year.
Is there more developable land there
Yes,
before they hit that stream?
yes.
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we have further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstained.
Aye.
Motion passes, so we're good.
Roll, Dave, let's go.
Yeah, we're going to pick up for that first hour.
Hey,
It's downhill now.
We already took care of White Oak Drive, so that one's good.
Self-storage.
So self-storage, we have the gentleman behind us that we're speaking. The other one is somebody who reached out to me about looking to do self-storage on the former go-kart site at 1762 Berlin Turnpike. This is about a 3-acre property. It is BT1, which would be a different zone. And they were kind of looking for some feedback on whether or not they should look to move forward, do anything.
Got to run the same strings.
It is accepted as different zones. So it's an interesting quandary.
Is
The
it,
the only issue I would have is 80% of the turnpike is BT1, which could be a lot of them. That would be my concern, especially because, yeah, you go up a big can of worms. I think it's,
is that contiguous to Rambus's piece?
yes, it is. It backs up the ramp systems.
So if somebody wanted to develop Rambus's piece, they may want to assemble this one,
Potentially.
right?
Yeah.
And if 80% of the turnpike is BT1, and we say, hey, yeah, we're supporting this, then we can end up with a lot of self-storage on the turnpike, right?
We might have to grab one ourselves. Which one might be able to-
Yeah, Rambus piece also has frontage. Not saying that they wouldn't want to still assemble that
Yeah,
piece.
yeah, I know. Depending on what somebody wanted to do, right, you know, if they had to build, if they really needed like a lot of frontage.
Right, put a boulevard in.
Is that, do the Bowen people own the go-kart?
No, separate
It's
piece.
just separate, really? Oh,
Yeah, so it's-
You know that.
Yeah, it was Edelson's family, and then it was divided up. That's where
idea.
So that's a good
Time to
question.
put a target.
Because that may be something that somebody puts together.
That is a preference at this point. I've ridden a car with a couple of people, and that's what we've discussed, which is bringing them together makes them, especially because the driveway literally is 50 people over the road.
And there might even be a right of way for the exit. You know, see, you guys know how it's designed.
So would we say that this commission is not in favor of the BT1 for self-storage? Would that be a statement that is accurate?
I think that's fair. Given the fact that when we talked about it in the BT2 zone, we were trying to limit it. When we had the discussion last week, we said, look at it. Okay, we could do it in BT2, we're only gonna have it here, here maybe. Because we were trying to control it and not have it like. So I think, I would agree with that, you know, but I don't know what the rest of the folks think.
I think that's a very good point.
I don't see exactly the wording, what the intent was for them to create the BT1 and BT2 zone. Okay, and if there's language in there that states that the BT2 zone is supposed to protect the budding residential, then probably nothing more quiet than self-storage.
Right.
I never understood years back where this BT2 came from in the first place. Okay? Because supposedly, if that language is in there, protecting budding residential, why is the corner of Deming and Berlin Turnpike where industrial surplus is, why is that a BT2?
There's no, the house is not really the bridge.
Well, I mean, okay, I won't say it.
Right, I get it. But then, if we start trying to do self-storage on BT1, which is 80%, then you really end up possibly with way too many, and then some don't make it, you know what I mean?
Well, if you look at the
You know, you
history,
get that saturation,
Yeah.
so.
the Motown ended up being a nice little like here.
So
And then we went into that first used dealership. And we had multitude of those going. Used car dealerships. We don't want to can of worms, we end up with 30. So.
It looks like right here,
Because we
basically.
can't possibly fill them all. We want to also make sure there's enough in there that the saturation of the town can support these businesses and not spread them so thin that they can't possibly succeed.
Basically saying the BT1 is for unique nature property like the turnpike that with those uses which could be detrimental in your residential properties. BT2 essentially is looking to do with ones that preferences, ones that do not have detrimental impact on your residential property. So yes, it looks like that was the intent, which was BT2 was probably near
Protect the
residential,
residential.
protect the residential. So that's the BT.
Assembly,
So with the presentation we heard this evening, do we have any particular thoughts?
Talking about fixed children, how they mix new stuff, or we're talking
No,
about.
that's,
That's being
BT2?
put in there right now, that's gonna preclude these guys.
yes.
So we have to figure out a way to either get to P and Z or have them, like Dave said, talk to each other. Figure out a way that they can have some synergy between the two projects.
I think that's exactly what you're gonna do, like tomorrow morning. Chris Edge calls the other guys, calls you guys, and we come together with the planner, start talking right
I
away.
guess I'm a little confused, what's it?
Well, because the text amendment that they're proposing in BT2 will exclude you from putting your
So I
self-storage.
would think that they would probably just keep going in that direction.
There'd be competition.
Well, but the planner,
I think that.
but the planner would have to be willing to shut you guys out. by
Let me-
approving that, you know what I mean?
I mean, with the,
Right, so I think it's more of a, I don't think I'm gonna get any talking to, really, I think how they would see it as competition.
I have a standing,
People would not want it.
I have a standing meeting with the planner on Tuesday. I will meet with her, I'm supposed to meet with her tomorrow morning. Let me talk to her and say, look, this is what happened last night.
Right.
They're looking at property A, property B. Here's a text amendment. The economic development does not want to necessarily be restrictive. We don't want 7 of them, but what is the way to, and maybe it's the recommendation from this commission that says we believe it should be 450 and 3.5. Let's say. But let me talk to her because yeah, I don't know if putting 2 competitive groups talking to each other is.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. The question is, as a group, do we support what Mr. McClarty wants to do on this 3.666 acre site? Is that what do we believe that that's okay to go there?
How many square feet are you talking for your buildings? We're talking about one building's 56,000 square feet. So it could be upwards of about 70,000 square feet. So it does, I think, mentioned Chris earlier, another way to control it is if you put a minimum square footage requirement on it. And then in the regulations, you have a maximum building coverage, say 50% of the property, 25% of the property, let's say. That's going to prevent anyone from having a parcel wanting to create some storage, 100%. So your 80,000 square feet is just, that's just one floor of the building. That's a 3-story building. That's a 3-story building, all 3 stories. So I would probably play a minimum requirement of 50,000 square feet. Also, maybe if you're going to do, climate control of multi-story building. Because people across the street from me, they're not using that whole parcel. You're right, they're using just a small. They have 7-acre parcel, probably less than 4 acres. Okay. The size is almost similar to yours. It's the usable piece. Correct. Right. Similar, but again, I mean, if you want to make sure that not every BT2 zone piece can be utilized for this, and you put that minimum, say 50,000 square feet on it, and have 50% of the coverage, that means 100,000 square feet of property area to be able to do it. And that doesn't make it very site specific like regulation right now.
So I guess the question is, do we believe that we're okay with Mr. McClarty to spend climate control facility? And I guess the question I'd say is, what if McClarty was here last time? And we're writing a text amendment for Steve McClarty, like the other guys did, then these other guys should come this time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay,
The 7 acres was site specific, that was wrong. Okay, you don't see anything in here, normally it's 5, 10, 20, and so forth. Okay, or BT 1, 2 acres, so forth, right? But the question is, over the years, you attempted to look at developing this piece, and what other type of projects you attempt to put there to develop?
Well, we tried, just hotels, looked at that for a while, and up in the office space, just kind of went away. It wasn't really hot to begin with for a little while, but it's not a real place where people want to go. It's not restaurants. We need to make something happen. Really. It's just, we got residential behind. There's no place to go even get a sandwich or go someplace. You can't go, if you go south, that's even worse. And you go north, you're kind of headed no place. So office where people could congregate wasn't really flying off the table either. So,
Yeah.
and then it was, for a while, it was a thought was residential, go back to residential, like it was a long time ago. Like to be some back, right?
well, I guess the question.
Extend that zone and put more condos there?
Well, there's residential all around it, and now it's, Quebec just did that piece, and
Yeah.
the piece up on top.
Compared to an office building. I think some of the commissioners and so forth will look at tax dollars. What do we get with tax dollars for economic development? Right. Your development compared to an office building. How would you say?
I would say it's a better use of the property.
I mean, ultimately, I don't think you're gonna get much tax dollars in office building.
No, I understand you're not going to.
And for a service use, town services, it's probably as well as it can be.
Yeah. See, I'm one that's against vacant land. Okay.
That's right.
It's wasted.
Yeah.
Okay? And to be corny about it, it's the guy that was always looking for the perfect woman and died a single man.
That's right.
All right? So you can wait all you want.
But he was really happy.
Yeah, you can wait all you want. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen.
It's a good analogy, yeah.
I'm sorry. But
Was there ever anything on that property?
So I guess the question is like, we're in a little sticky wicket, a little bit, you know, because it's the same zone. It's across the street. It's not like down the street, half a mile, you know, it's right across the street. And it's the same zone. The text amendment was really very site-specific. And
But didn't we support the 7 acres?
we did, yeah, we supported we supported them doing self-storage there.
We liked, yes, we definitely like the concept. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
So it's sort of hard to say we don't like the concept across the street in the same zone, you know what I mean? But now I know, like you said, Chris, I'm gonna have two of them potentially, you know? And is there room for 2 self-storages across the street? You know, or though, is a climate controlled one very different than the other one? I don't know. You gentlemen may leave here tonight and say, oh, we don't want to compete that across the street, we're gonna do something. You know, you may leave here and say, we're not doing this. Because, you know, there's new things that you've learned tonight coming to you.
No, they're just setting it back.
Oh, I got a feeling the other person. Similar situation where they can try to give effect to some on their property for quite some time. They have.
They got
something that they could go.
So is it okay to let Chris talk?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I think has to happen. We're not saying no,
No. I don't see anything wrong with both these sites. Now, I'll throw a wrench in the whole conversation.
Thanks.
The corner of Deming Road and Rowan Turnpike, industrial surplus. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that BT2?
That's the last item in our planning and zoning. We'll discuss that.
Definitely don't want self-storage there. We want high impact development. So
Their application to change that to BT1 is either going to be heard Thursday or the 21st. So they're whole hog to go BT1. They don't want to stay BT2. Because BT1, the way it's written, gives them the ability to do the fueling station on the corner. BT2 does not. And I believe the entire the fueling station is the dog. The rest of it's the tail.
okay, so that's 337.
That's 337.
Okay, good.
okay, so we'll move on, which one we're gonna be on, Chamberlain Highway mixed use?
Yeah, and I think that one, we just have to think about it at this point. I don't think there's any real decision because.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Well, Chris, you know, after he meets with.
Yeah, I'll figure out, I mean, and I think there's a couple ways that come to mind on this. One, if this commission makes a recommendation, or 2, if the public hearing is held on this to make the recommendation of the 450 and 3.5 acres.
Right.
Or as Eddie had said, that the way this is written is. Yeah. I don't know if necessarily hold in court, but it looks that way.
Right.
But no, I think this has potential, and I think the commission is supportive. I just think we need to figure out how to kind of make it happen. Thank you. All right, so SBDD. SBDD is the big little triangle, big piece there. So down on the road, potentially we could have some properties changing hands, potentially. And if so, we have a group that would be similar to Tyler Equipment or the new Alta folks that would like to go on that location. Power space. He's one of the ones I looked at. But essentially, it would be very similar to what they're doing, what Alta's doing, what Tyler's doing. This operation happens to have one in Massachusetts, one in like Stratford. We're right in the middle.
And this is across the whole gas station.
Across no gas station, but it would be basically as part of the big triangle with the golden triangle, but it doesn't include the piece. It would be down along the
They
road.
just want the front piece.
They would want the front piece
How many
and
acres is that?
I think that the smaller piece is looking at about 2.5. There's also a 5-acre piece that's available too. And the question was whether or not we think this makes sense. If so, the use would have to be added to the regs, because at present,
Is it a sales place or is it a rental like that?
I believe it's gonna be similar to both Alta and Tyler, where they're gonna do sales, some service, but majority of the service is gonna be down on the road. Heavy stuff. I mean, if you look at that,
2.5 acres gonna be enough to put it on.
I don't know, that's why,
What one?
so if you look at the next page,
Big scene of 2 acres, you can chew it up like 4 big front loaders.
yeah, and they may be looking to get more than that, but I think kind of looking at, so if you look, the SPDD zoning regs are there, you'll see that literally there are 7 allowed uses.
Is on page
70.
7, yeah.
So are they taking the 10 acres?
They would not be, they most likely would not have a full 10 acres.
Well, actually, maybe they would, because if it went straight back, it would go into the wetlands. And if the wetlands are just included in the development, then it would be a lot.
They're looking at pieces along the frontage of the church. Yeah, they're not gonna get anywhere near the wetlands.
So it doesn't sound like this little lot, does it?
No, not at present, which is why I wanted to show you what the zone allows, which is not much. So if it was to be done, it essentially would be the sales and repair of equipment, boats, something, it'd be the same language as the BP1, which is what Midstate was approved under, and what Alta was approved under. So essentially the same thing, if we think that's something that makes sense.
I would like to see the rendering the business plan, what they're gonna do, kind of equipment, things of that nature.
Or Chris was born in Massachusetts, what does it look like? When you look at it, street,
It's a pretty rugged piece of land property. Is it?
Equipment, flat land.
I know.
It only appears high. You have the elevation. Well,
They've got-
flat.
They've got 2 choices. One, if they're able to, they will redevelop existing properties that are there. They go free use them and or knock them down, or they will take a raw piece and
There is a hotel there.
That's DNL, right?
Oh, I mean, that's for them to make the decision.
There's some pictures of Southern Mass, which to get an idea of what it looks like.
Do you have a name on this?
you do. Today, it's actually a kind of nice facility. Want to see if I can get some pics or something else for next meeting.
How many acres would it be?
There's a couple of pieces. So one is 20 acres, 2.5 acres, it's fine.
If they picked up one piece, it'd probably be a 2.5, 3 acres. Picked up 2 pieces, it could be 5, or they could pick up a whole other piece, it's 5 acres. So I think the goal would be to go more than like 3 plus
I
acres.
think because you're building your showroom, your services, it's gonna take up a certain amount. Like HO Pan, they do that, they got big base, put those, you know, tractor tractors in there. So you gotta figure a front load is at least that big, big
Yep.
Cat D8 or something like that. Those are big.
There comes some room.
Yeah.
So,
are they
okay,
gonna be able to strike a deal with the owners?
I am working with a client out of Massachusetts. We're looking at a site located at XYZ Berlin Turnpike Financial Expansion. They would consider purchasing the site and the motel next door or a few acres abutting the rear. This is made with equipment sales, leasing and servicing. They were in business in 2005, very active Connecticut, looking to build a 10,000 square foot building and have an outdoor area for showcasing equipment. The building would be constructed along very pleasant landscaping and shrubbery on and around the premises. 25% of the business will consist of servicing equipment on site, while the other 75% is handled on the road, delivering and servicing equipment.
I kind of. With toys, I'm okay with it.
Well, it's-
That's what they like.
I'm okay with that.
It's kind of business that's not, it's gonna survive. There are businesses today that, this information age, digital age. Are, office space to be talked about, like.
They're getting invested that much.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can ask them, Chris, is there a location that they can, give us a street view, what the heck's it gonna look like? if they have a place like this?
I didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
If
see,
we-
and then
if we
we
just-
look at it.
My thing is just from an economic standpoint, what I do for a living, we're staring smack in the middle of a recession. Even poor policy. So unless they change something. Kind of see if they open things up again. And exodus slows down, mortgage rates keep going higher, property values have to come down, to keep those mortgage payments affordable. That can stall construction. It's happened. This is the boom and bust of real estate.
Yeah.
We boomed for 3 freaking years.
Goes-
We're about to
goes up.
see.
Here you go, guys.
Assessments.
Guys.
QFS. They're in Southampton.
Bring Terry Cat. Keith,
Yes.
I weighed my tractor on 40 pounds, but yeah, dust from creating that field last year. You can actually breathe in the cab of the tractor.
Here's a list of brands too on what they have here. So they've got a decent amount of brands.
Yeah. If they're willing to make the investment. We should listen to them. Absolutely.
Never heard you hear them out.
I don't know for sure. What's next there for you?
So
It's been across each other.
what do we wish to do with these guys? Should
They're
I
all gonna pay taxes.
tell them that we believe it is a use that we are in favor of, not actually a vote, but just to give them an idea because they're.
We think the concept is interesting.
Do they want to come and talk to us? Will they come talk to us?
I think they would. The problem is they also don't want to have,
Waste their time.
they don't want to drag it out too long because if they're gonna do something, they'd like to try to do something with property owners.
So who would we have to ask? We have to talk to P and Z to see if zoning can be a special permit or something.
You have to,
So would they be receptive?
you have to open up you have to add the use to the zone. Add the use to the zone.
Just another discussion for town planner.
Could be, but I mean, the
Those Taylor says,
more recommended, I have no idea.
because if we go in there, see 1920, it drops off.
What's
What
the,
happens with the company? What about that?
I think more people are gonna come, if you got 3 of them right here to take a look at this here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Alta and the Taylor are a great compliment, because one is big, heavy equipment, and the other is more that intermediate one.
is there an impact to the rest of the tribe? These guys develop just. Does that affect the rest of it?
I think their preference is to redevelop existing,
Stay like what's already there.
what's already.
So like, you know, we're gonna go to hotel there. That really wouldn't affect anything further, because you can still enter it for like across from one of your gas stations or whatever.
Yeah, it would not affect the back,
So the rest of
Wouldn't
it.
affect the back.
wouldn't affect the back, and I think truthfully it would be.
I think get these done.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
I see why not.
No, why not hear what it is?
If you got Alta, Tyler, and this one, they can just go to one place and they can come and see all the equipment in one day,
Good story.
Yeah.
Anybody know George Wilson?
I know, Mr. Wilson. That front piece is owned by another small little group. Okay, but that small little group is also partners in the rest of the company. Yeah, so sounds like small group selling them a few acres to the corner. No?
Preference is to redevelop two properties that are already developed.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
But no, none of it is for, on the triangle piece?
If they only get one of the two, they might take a couple pieces behind. But if they get both pieces, they could go side to side for 4.5 acres and cover.
Yeah,
If not, if they just got one, they might have to go a couple, 2-3 acres back. In the trunk.
still trying to figure out.
Let's see what it is. Okay. At least someone's looking.
How much money is the town to cheat out of taxes for that?
What's forest?
PA 490 forestry.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
there's no,
ridiculous thing in the world. I get knocked every single time we do it.
there's no doubt.
What are we gonna do? Anything? Nothing?
Oh, we probably want to hear them.
It seems like we have an interest in
So, yeah, I think the concept is a good concept. I think that where they're trying to go or develop those two pieces, of property, they can get them, so make it look a whole heap better.
Maybe we end up doing maybe a special meeting or something. We need to. In person.
Okay.
758 Four Rod Road. So if you go to the last couple pages here, we have a group of folks which are interested in developing. Now, 758 is the corner of North and Fourth. So that's 7.5 acres, with the cemetery on the top piece of it.
the field,
The field.
Yeah.
shepherd's piece.
So what he's looking at, there's a little drawing here that would be, so what we'd be looking at would be, contractor buildings would be on your right in green. Red would all be self-storage, the orange would be like warehouse building.
Okay, let's move.
And that's gonna go.
Yeah, that's never gonna forget. Is the zoning allow it? It's over. Okay, I think, right?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
That's gonna be a really hard sell.
337. Right, and we okay?
Yeah, I'm putting big X on this one.
Okay, 337.
337, okay, last page, so.
We need.
337 Berlin Turnpike. What I did is just quickly here so you can take a look at what the BT2 versus BT1. And number of uses that are added in BT1, especially the special permit are dramatic. There's a whole bunch of them that are there, maybe not necessarily all ones you jump up and down about, but it's a lot more uses. This will allow them to do the gas station. There's a lot more things in the BT1. So they are eager to change it to BT1. And I was kind of looking to see, get this.
That's so specific, there's a lot more BT.
No, it's basically they're actually changing the zone on 3 pieces. So you got the little piece on the corner there where they used to have the yellow building used to sell hot dogs or something. You got
The rugs were.
Yeah, the roads work. Then you got the piece here. You also have the piece that goes like down here. So essentially, this one is currently PI, these two are called BT2. So they're essentially looking to rezone all of it, so all 12 acres becomes BT1.
What is the zone for that plaza that's there?
That entire side of the road is BT2, all the way back. Yeah, I recommended BT1 all the way through, but apparently they just those
But
three.
this is where they want to go to the gas station.
So longer than that is. We were coming out of the right.
Oh, yeah, across the street.
This gasoline station already existing.
It's BT.
That's in the BT2. So gas stations.
Yeah. By special permit, I think. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they can get it done by special permit in the BT.
Actually, I think a McDonald's will go on that corner. With the gas station.
Anything is possible. But yes,
Out of bakery.
Target.
Oh,
That's all.
Yeah. We stop there with kids.
So are we in favor of the BT1 change?
In that corner?
You want to make the move, Jim? Got it.
We have a second. The only question I have is ET2 doesn't allow gas station.
Unless it's pre-existing.
Is there an issue with Gulf Guy?
gonna be, it's not that loud.
But is there an issue with it?
Because the attorney for the owner came in and got language added, which says if you have a BT1 zone property, you are allowed to do a fueling station of 4,000 square feet. And so it is allowed and it waives the 1,500 foot.
This kind of works in favor to the guy that comes in with it, it was better product.
But the fact that we
Somebody
changed
comes
the
in
zone,
500 feet.
we made the zone change that allows us to occur. That blows out that 50. Gulf Guy issue.
No, it's already gone.
Language is already approved.
Language is already.
The language is already approved that if you're in a B, there's different things. If you're in a BT1 and you have a fueling station of X, the 1,500 feet goes away, basically, is what the language already says it's in there.
Is that changed language? Or was that the original?
No, it changed the language.
So does the town attorney see any
I don't believe so,
repercussion
no,
from
because
those, because they just put up big investment in that thing?
I don't foresee any because it went through. The attorney looked at it. They knew exactly what it was and where it was going.
It's already a few months back.
So
So,
it's a number of months back, 6 or 8 months back.
so if they were going to test it, they would have done it already.
Any of that did that? Originally? He would put his station across the street on the other one, south.
He had to move this for the 1,500 feet, he had to move it further down. That is like 1,507 feet or something.
He's gonna have to get a station.
Okay, so we
That's
have a
not gonna be
motion,
as much of an
yes.
intrusion, because that's going southbound, and it's right northbound. Now they're gonna be right on the exact corner. So you see the war they got going on to the GO station, signal station. Great light. The fuel price.
Yeah, they're identical.
All right, we have a motion and a second, just a discussion stage, so. Oh. All those in favor of changing to one,
Yes, BT,
say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Rich?
Aye.
Got it. Okay, what are we on to now then, Mr. Chris here?
just ribbon cuttings, grants nutrition, ravishing cord, and the truck bar, which worked out very well. We got a couple nice articles. The truck bar is supposed to be interviewed by Channel 8 in the next week or two, so that's kind of cool.
Something they scooped right over there.
Yep, yeah, they got
Kristen Youssef. So, and then also Body Construction's doing some kind of a class or something.
yeah, they got a lot of stuff.
A workout or something.
Truck bar, yeah, they're doing a bunch. So Greater Britain Chamber of Commerce, that's a Bob thing. He's not here. Branding awareness, I'm going to present the plan to town council and board of finance on the 19th. That's the 20th, start hiring people and start rocking and rolling.
Okay. Item 8, any comments? Adjourn meeting. Second.
Aye.
Last one for discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
8:15.
Thanks, Rich.
We grew for the last 45 minutes after an hour and a half of everybody else.
Yeah. I gotta run, I gotta go out.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay,
Feel
thank you,
better.
guys.
Thank you,
I'll catch you later.
Kristen.